Join me in a pledge, please. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And then, folks, I'd like to ask everybody, we need to acknowledge a big loss to our district here recently. The DHS team got hit hard. So, but everybody just join me, please, in a minute of silence in honor of Tiffany Songer. Thank you. Next up is roll call. We have two members that called in, unable to attend this evening. Trustee Verplanky and Trustee Brown won't be here. Everybody else is. Next up, early childhood literacy. Heather Olson. All right. Come on down.
All right, and as part of the Y-Bill grant that we have, part of the funding needs to focus the attention on early childhood. And so we're just very blessed and honored to have an early childhood literacy liaison position that started in January. And that is Heather Olson, and she's here to just share with some of the stuff that she's been doing.
So thank you all. So my name is Heather Olson, and I started this position back in January. And one of my ideas actually came to me on my drive between Sheridan and Buffalo. So I live in Sheridan, but I was thinking, since I don't have a classroom right now, what can I do to reach the birth through 5 population in Johnson County? So as I was driving and muddling and thinking, I came up with this idea for these little totes. So I have ordered through the grant these little totes, and I call it the Tiny Totes program. It's whatever you really want to call it. But what it is it's literacy in a bag. So ideally, we have learned through research that kids birth through 5 learn an average of 4,000 to 12,000 words a year just from reading with their parents at night. And so I thought about what ways can I add to that for the school district. There's lots of research. You can Google it if you ever, need something to keep you up late at night. And as a mom of 6, I do that because I am worried. I want to make sure that my kids are meeting milestones in school and that they're going to be successful as adults. And so one of the things that I found was just reading, just exposing them to new books, a variety of books, is so important. And what we've seen developmental-wise is not only do their test scores improve, but they, on average, will go on further education-wise after high school to achieve 2 to 3 years farther than their peers if you read to your child at night. So I thought about some of the new research that's come out about home libraries and how important it is for parents to build these home libraries. Did you know that 1/3 of Americans do not have, and this is across the United States, do not have any more than 20 books in their house for their kids? When you think about that and you think about how we grew up, or my generation, we had Mrs. Pigglewiggle. We had a huge variety, and our parents read to us. I don't know that that's always the case now with technology. So my question was how best can I get books into the homes of the students in Johnson County? So inside our Tiny Totes, and I started this last month. So we're in month 2, which is March, but each month they get a themed tote. And this is any of our birth through 5 population, Johnson County, so that includes, of course, Casey. I dropped off 12 totes to them as well the last week. But they get 3 books, and then they get an insert on how to use those books with their kids. They get a fine motor skill activity. So this one's kind of fun. So this is tweezers and pom-poms. Oh. So they have to actually take the pom-poms out of the bag with their tweezers, which is great for their pincer grip, which translate into how they hold their pencil when they're in kindergarten. And then they're counting. We also have some Play-Doh tools with fine motor. And the kids in February got to make a love bug craft. So every tote has something similar. This is the February one that we actually just handed out to both Casey and at Meadowlark. But they got to make leprechaun traps. So all the craft activities are included in this. Parents do not have to go out and buy anything additional. Everything is in this bag. And in the insert, there's directions for, of course, how to do it, but also what they have to return back to the school. So everything comes back to us except for the craft. So long-term wise, this is something that can continue for years and years because we're just essentially funding the craft. But this month, they got their 3 books that were all leprechaun or March themed. They got their leprechaun trap, of course, but they also got alphabet puzzles. They have to match the picture with the letter that it starts with. And then personally, for me, my favorite, and this was actually a big hit. So there's these little gears, and they have the uppercase and lowercase letters. So kids are practicing screwing on and off, which is important for our little kiddos, but they're also identifying upper and lowercase letters. So fun and learning tied into one. And then I also added in these dot markers. I did not bring them tonight because there were inserts for a letter. So L for leprechauns, where they have to stamp these with the markers, and they're counting as well. So every tote that we've created has been around this. So we're planning on doing this essentially as long as the grant will let us. But anyway, so that's kind of been my position. And then one of the other things that I just started was I dropped off these bags for the newborn babies at the hospital. So every parent that has a baby in Johnson County gets 2 new board books to start their own home libraries. What I didn't mention about the totes, and I'm just not thinking about it because I'm nervous. And anyway, but
You did a great job.
Well, one of the draws to these totes is when parents bring them back. So they check them out for a week from me. But when they bring them back, they get the choice of a free book to build their own home library. So the draw is you do this, you do the activities with your kid, you come back to me and bring it, and then you get a free book. And it's been really bigger than what I thought it was going to be, honestly. I had only planned on 30 totes the first month, and I ended up having to open up an additional 30. Cool. So February was 60 parents. This month, right now, this first one, I have a wait list. I'm embarrassed to say that because I should have thought bigger maybe, but I was just hoping for 30, In my first week this month has been 50. Oh, wonderful. So I think we're going to just see a huge increase, which is amazing because you think of the impact that we can have on our little kids. It's huge. So anyway, that's what I've been doing. So if you want to find more or see, I've been doing little videos. And I actually posted it or sent it maybe to Heidi for the March one. But of kind of what was included in the tote and how to show it. That's on the district website. But so anyway, any questions? Sorry, I'm so nervous.
So when they bring it back, they not only get another book, they get another tote.
Yes, so then they'll have the date for the next tote. So April has two weeks that they can check out. So essentially the first Monday of the month and then the third Monday of the month.
Okay.
And then when they bring them back, then they'll get the free book. And everybody for February brought theirs back. So
Oh, sure.
that's a really good. And I won't lie, I've had to do the Remind app, I've had to text, and I've had to call a few, but they're bringing them back, and I think once we get in that routine, it's gonna be even easier. So, yeah.
There's another question.
Yes, obviously the word is getting out. I mean, with
It
such
is.
success numbers wise, but how do you do outreach to get birth through 5?
So that's a great question. So I've been in and out of the child care centers in town. And I will do pamphlets and hand out. And honestly, Lori Graves let me attend some of the parent nights that we had. So I just stood there with my totes when they did the PE and the music days where they invited the parents in and said, hey, I just did a quick 1-minute announcement at the beginning of those classes and just said, look what I've got, like, if you have a birth through 5, and then I've honestly, I'm not gonna, and I just talk to people, and I'm just like, hey, so it looks like you might have a little kid, or I'll just like, if I see a big group, I'll just say, does anybody have a birth through 5 parent that would be interested in a free book? So I'm kind of a salesman. Maybe that should have been like my second. But anyway, it's been working, so.
Awesome, thank you.
So if anybody has a birth through 5, I'm here. Yeah. Thank you.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, guys.
All right, so Mr. Chair, now I'll have you introduce our next guest.
So here today, we had numerous questions about transitions just last month. And so along with my board report, and I'm open to answer any questions. But I brought Melissa, or sometimes your invoices say Griselda. Sorry. She goes by Melissa. Anyway, I asked her to come and do a presentation on ABLES itself. And so just like in my board report, we have 2 separate contracts with her. One, I asked her to come in herself and do some training for our district. So she's working with our high needs teachers and our transition program. And then on top of that, then the ABLES is for the students in our district. But I will let her give her presentation. And thank you.
This is kind of fancy.
Okay. Hello, everyone. Thank you for letting me come in. I love to talk about transition, so I'll try to keep it really short and simple for you guys. So I have Achievable Beyond Limited Expectations, ABLE for short. I am out of Gillette. I was a transition specialist in Campbell County for 2 years, and I'm a transition consultant for your district and also Kirk County, and then Western County. They just contracted me as well. So I do everything transition. I have, there you go. So this program came last year. I started it about 2 years ago, but we have a location now. This is my little girl, Taylor Brower. She is 20 years old, getting ready to transition out of high school. So I wanted to have something in place for her when she does graduate. There's really not a whole lot going on in Gillette. And so we have 3 great day programs, but they are not necessarily what my child needed. So I took it upon myself to create my own transition program for her. She is the CEO of the company, fires me every night. And she'll be the first one to tell you that my program sucks, so she's mad. So there's that for her. I started working with her at Taco Bell one summer. I wanted her, about 3 years ago, I wanted her to have a job. And I didn't know anything about DVR at that time, and so I got a job at Taco Bell. I took orders in the front counter, and she cleaned the lobby, and I worked right alongside her, and she did fantastic. And so I brought in some of my students from Thunder Basin. I was a vocational teacher at Thunder Basin, and I brought some of them in the weekends, and I just started kind of working with them right alongside them. Then I heard about DVR, and we kind of partnered up a little bit. So this is where ABLE comes from. We work with all students, regardless of their disability. We have students that are in my Tier 1 program that are high needs, and we consider them high needs. We still take them to work. We still work with them. We provide the same services that we provide anybody that's getting ready to go to college, but they're more tailored towards their specific needs.
So, like Val said, I work with your elementary kiddos and your high school kids on the high needs program, and I transition and kind of talk to parents about what's available for them, what needs to happen, what are the resources that they need, and how we can support them so when they do leave Kirk County or Johnson County, that they have the resources available to them. So tier 1, these are my high need kiddos. We have about, I would say about 15 from your program, your district in Kirk County and Kimball County. So they come to us and we do the same skills that we do with everybody else. We meet once a month with this group. We do community-based activities. We teach them how to follow a schedule, remain on task. Everything that we do is tailored towards independency outside of school, vocational, whether it's twice a week where they work 30 minutes or it's 40-hour week. It's just truly what they need, and we just kind of have that ultimate goal for them to be as independent as possible with the skills that they have and kind of grow from there. So that's my tier 1. And so as you can see, we do a lot of independent living skills. You may recognize some of your own students in this picture that we've taken to Gillette, and we do summer activities with them. They do their shopping, and we use pictures for them to be able to, indicate what they want. They do dishes, not highly something they don't really like to do. We do bowling. We do whatever it is that they want to do. We do a lot of that and just kind of tailor it, like I said, tailor it to their specific needs. And you can see some of your students in here. Yeah. Our tier 2 group is that second level where they still need a lot of support but are able to do a lot more things independently. So this is the group that we start with the volunteer work. And so we take them out in the community, and you guys have such amazing community that we've been able to take some of your high school kiddos into the community and are now starting to work. And so DVR has me paying those wages. And so we have them working at the animal shelter. We just talked to the museum last week about bringing in some kiddos there to do some volunteer work. We do it at the hotels. One of your extremely high kiddo is now working in one of the hotels and is cleaning their lobby and stuff. And so we've had a great success, or I've had a lot of great success with your community members supporting our kiddos. I got a call last week from the food pantry that is looking for someone to come in and help fill those orders. And so they asked if I had any kiddos that would be willing to come in and kind of step up in that. So we do have a couple kiddos from the high school that will be going there next week and just kind of giving them the added support. So that's my tier 2. This is one of our little girls that did not want to work. She said she was a princess, and so she didn't have to work. And so even princesses have to work, so now she's working, and she's doing a fantastic job. She works at Albertano's and Gillette, but the Albertano's here has also had some of our kiddos participate in working there too. So fantastic place. My tier 3 group, this is my more independent group, and so they're the ones that are ready for job placement. So they're the ones that we do the applications, job interviews, and so they end up getting their job and getting paid by their employer and whatnot, with support from DVR as well.
What's the DVR?
So it's the Department of Vocational Rehabilitation Center. Yep. And it's a state government program that's available to all of our students 14 and older that are on IEPs or 504s. And so we kind of coordinate with them and bring them in to provide graded services. So they're the ones that essentially take over the job placements, the workplace readiness skills, and whatnot after we graduate from high school. But we bring them in earlier, so that way they can start building those relationships with the students and families. So again, tier 3 is when we have the weekend crash courses. Our program is now a residential program as well. And so I've taken in a couple kiddos that didn't have a place to go, and so we've worked on those job readiness skills, and now they're working and they're having great success. And so we do weekend crash courses, Hewlett, Sundance, even here. Some of them don't have the same resources that Gillette has because we're a little bit bigger. So we bring them in on the weekends and we teach them the same thing that we do during the week. We do it on the weekend. I'm a busser and a dishwasher at Pizza Ranch on the weekends now. Actually, it's really fun. It's a lot of fun. So I, wash dishes and I go, oh, it's perfect. And so I do that on the weekends. We work right alongside them, kind of like a job coach. And so we do it with them. The day program services, we have Campbell County School District that sends me some of their kids that are getting ready to age out, and they send them to the day program halfway through the day. So that transition is a lot smoother, and they're able to transition a lot faster, but more successful because they're used to the people that we're working with, and they're kind of familiar with the things that we do. So everything is based on what they want to do. But again, that vocational training piece is a huge part of our program because we want them to get a job. We want them to be as independent as possible. So we do a lot of that. The residential service, you see a lot, some of your kiddos on there as well. We just started this program, and I have two kiddos that are now living at Able that have been successful, and I am excited to be able to provide that to more of our kiddos. We have a business class Monday nights, and so one of the biggest things that I saw when I brought in my kiddos is that they don't really know about their disability. They don't understand their disability. They don't know what the accommodations are. And so we focus on, we do units on specific disabilities or abilities, to be corrected multiple times by them. Various abilities, and we do units, and we learn about their abilities. We learn about what they need to ask for, how to affect them. And then from 5:30 to 7:30, and they make tumblers, they create t-shirts, and they, just anything that's based on their disability. And then they learn to self-advocate. We were just asked to do 45 t-shirts for one of the schools in Gillette for Down syndrome. 22nd is Down syndrome day. So my kids are there right now creating and designing t-shirts for that Down syndrome class that they will go and do a presentation on Down syndrome. It's just a great way for them to connect with one another, advocate, and kind of learn about each other. So they do concession stand, and then they sell it on their vendors, and all of the money that they make from that goes right back into the business. So then we go into budgeting, and we go into marketing, and we go into ordering supplies, and then once a month they all go to dinner as a group, and they decide what they want to do, and then they order their own meals and learn how to give tips and about taxes and all that good stuff they don't like. So again, these are just some of the things that we're working on. We started this class. I started with 3 kids, and I think I have about 22 registered already right now. So, and that was just because it's such a great. I personally don't like crafts, so I had to hire someone to come show them how to do it. And so they kind of just kick me out now, turn off the music, and kind of work together. Some of them have to step up and are leaders now. They're showing my kiddos that are coming up how to work the machines and stuff. We talk about great skills, their own comfort area. Driver's education. Last year at Campbell County, I wanted them to start a driver's ed program for our kids. They do have a fantastic driver's ed, but it wasn't tailored to their specific learning, and it wasn't slower at their own pace. So one day I was bored and I went and got a driver's ed instructor. So I'm a driver's ed instructor, and I have a driver's ed class on Wednesday. And so I have created a curriculum to kind of slow that pace down, and I'm helping them get their permit. And when I'm now working with the state, I'm getting Able registered to be able to give them the assessment myself. So it's a long process, but we're working on allowing them to be able to take the test at Able. I have 4 of them that have successfully gotten their driver's ed now license, and then I'm heading over to Riverton over spring break, and I will be doing a driver's ed class there. And then the boys' school has also contacted me to come out and just do a driver's ed. So that's something that I had talked to Val about, maybe offering something like that to your students that would do great in the driver's ed, but just need that little bit extra time and a little extra support and accommodating what they need in order for them to successfully get to that next step in their life. So we do driver's ed. I'm a driver's ed instructor. We do educational workshops Tuesdays and Thursdays. We do the self-advocacy workshops. We do community integration. I mean, anything that's got post-secondary. I do a lot of counseling on post-secondary. So on Friday, I'm taking a group of kiddos down to Riverton to tour the job board. It's a fantastic program. If you haven't been there, it's awesome. And so I'm taking a group of kiddos so that way they can get to experience what it's like and maybe start thinking about what's going to happen after life after high school. And so we do I've taken him to Nemo, South Dakota, Wyotech. I've taken him to Gillette College. We're planning on taking the kids to Sheridan from here so they can get, experience their trade programs as well, so they have a better understanding of what their options are, so they don't just stay at home and play those quick games that they want to do. So hopefully, if they are exposed to different options, that they're able to kind of think outside the box a little bit. So this is our weekend crash courses where they come in and they stay. The same thing that we do during the week, we offer them during the weekend for those outreach services places that don't have the same access. So we just transport them, we pick them up, bring them, and hang out with them. It'll be fantastic. Lots of volunteer work experiences. We do tons of this just to get. I'm a huge believer that our kids belong out in the community. They should not be sitting at home doing nothing. And so I've had businesses tell me that my kids are more of a burden than help. I don't shop there anymore, but I have a lot of places that they will allow my kids and they want my kids. At the Camplex last year, we did a vocational camp where we went and worked at the Camplex during their rodeo, National High School Rodeo. And when I first got there, I got there with 7 kids. And they looked at me and they're like, I don't know how we're going to accommodate all these kids. And I said, I promise you, if you just give me an opportunity, we'll take care of it. That night, they called me and said, when can we come back? We were that amazing with our kids. And we worked the entire week, long hours, and they got paid. It was really fantastic. And now 3 of my kids are part-time employees at the Camplex, where they kind of help set up. So, fantastic program. We work at the hospital. We volunteer at Blessings in the Backpack. I mean, we're everywhere. Everywhere in the community is what we do. Okay, so then as a parent, transitioning outside of school is extremely difficult and scary for us. I mean, the school district does a fantastic job at helping us while we're in school. However, when our kids graduate, we have no idea what to do next. Like, where do we go? So I work closely with all of the outside agencies. I am a case manager for the Home and Community-Based Waiver, also known as the DD waiver. 8 of your families are now registered for DD waiver and are waiting on the waiting list to get services. There is a 3-year waiting list, and so the sooner we get them registered, the better it is for the family. I do parent training on home and community-based waiver because parents don't know what the DD waiver is. And so I, again, was bored one day and I decided to become a case manager for that. And so now I help families get on the waiting list, and then when they do get funded, I also help them find the help that they need in order for them to be successful. Wyoming Independent Living, they come to Buffalo High School. I got them to come in just to help those families understand that that is an outside resource that's available to their kiddos. The Transportation Check Program, help them with that. DVR, I just sent over Ashley McIntosh is your DVR representative out of Sheridan, and I just sent her 6 other referrals from Buffalo High School. And she comes every Tuesday to meet students and get them ready for those resources, those outside agencies' help that they need. Children's mental health waiver, that's a new one, but there's tons of information and help for those. So the ones that don't qualify for the DD waiver, which that's more towards like intellectual disability, they're qualifying for the children's mental health waiver, and there is no waiting list for that one. So it's just an added support for the families who are having a hard time with their kids. These are just some of the- So like I mentioned, we do a lot of services. We do help with Social Security. We just met with the family last week, actually, and I helped her through the process of getting Social Security. She's also on the medical waiver. We're helping her little guy get on the medical waiver. So we help with the Social Security, the driver's education, legal guardianship, which is extremely scary for our parents, but a lot of them don't understand the process. I didn't when I had to go through it with my own child. So now I get to sit with them and talk to them about what that process looks like and why it's important to get legal guardianship if it's appropriate for their child. We do transition assessments with them. I've created transition plans that are meeting the requirements for Wyoming Department of Education. So when you do get audited, your IEPs are in compliance because I help teachers with those post-secondary goals as well. We do transition checklist. Some of the kiddos from Buffalo High School I'm taking them to go get their state ID, and then just kind of helping them get the checking account and banking account. We provide transportation. We do the college and trade programs. Like I said, we're taking a group to Riverton, 2 of your kiddos actually, to Riverton to do that job tour. The parent training support. We have a support group for parents. We have social skills camp in June and July. I do an overnight camp at the Gillette College where they get to stay overnight with us and they get to experience what it would be like to college, to go to dorms, to live in the dorms. A lot of our kiddos won't go to college, but they at least get to experience what it would be like to go. Maybe they do want to go to college. Hopefully they want to go into that post-secondary. I kind of do. All transitions. I can talk about transitions for hours because that's truly where my passion is, because that's the next phase that my daughter is going into. I became a SPED teacher because of her, so I'm just kind of following where she's been and that's where I'm going. So, just something our parents always tell me. It seems like because I have the personal experience with education that I make better connections with parents. They just kind of tend to seek me out a little bit more and ask those hard questions because they know that I've gone through it or will eventually go through it again. So, yeah. We had about last summer through our program, in our state program, and now that we've opened it up to Weston County and more of your kiddos, that I feel like that's what I'm to do it. So I do appreciate the opportunity to let me come in and hang out with your kiddos. They're fantastic. So.
Thank you. That was awesome. So Travis, any questions from the board or Val?
Just because I didn't follow through, I missed something there, but with the little kids, are you helping them transition from Meadowlark to Cloud Peak, or what are they transitioning at the younger ages?
So we're structuring their day a little bit. So I'm helping teachers understand what the big goal is versus just focusing on the what they're looking at now. So we focus on like the big picture. So structuring could be implementing some behavioral strategies or other accommodations that may be beneficial to kind of push that independency from early on versus having to work with that at the high school level. Okay. So just kind of giving them a different perspective, I guess.
I got you.
Yep. Mr. Chairman, Mrs. Bowers, thank you for what you do first.
Oh.
Secondly, how often do you come to Buffalo? Are you here all 5 days a week?
No, so twice a week.
Twice a week. And so how do you split your time? Like percentage-wise, how much time do you spend at each school?
So right now we're working with Buffalo High School. I'm there most of the time just because they have some harder kiddos that, we last year they weren't able to have one particular kiddo come in full time. And so now we worked on her. And so she's attending school full time. So I'm there to support and your new teacher that's coming up there. But I have gone to the elementary level. I meet with parents at the elementary level to help with the applications for the waiver and Social Security and stuff like that. So it truly is what they need me for. I've gone to the junior high school level and worked with them a little bit too. But right now we're kind of working backwards a little bit because we don't have a lot of transitions going on in Johnson County. So we're focusing on the kiddos that are about ready to graduate, focusing on them, and then working our way backwards a little bit.
So do you work at New West? Or
not yet.
No. We're getting there. It's a slow process. To be perfectly honest, we didn't have a very strong high needs program, and so that was one of the things that we really worked on this year. Another area that we didn't necessarily get dinged by the state, but the state came in with a recommendation that we needed additional training, and so this is part of that. And so with a new teacher and some pretty high needs students at that high school level, we just chose to start there. She has helped them. They've looked at a different curriculum at the middle school level. I know that the elementary school has also been looking at that same curriculum. And so our hope is to have a program that is K-12 that build off of each other instead of those separate silos.
All right, well, thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you guys. I appreciate your time.
No.
Awesome.
All right, next up, we've got an ELL program update.
All right, so it's my honor to introduce actually our accreditation chair. She's just serving a different role for those who remember Karen. She is contracted with us to take I guess we're auditing our ELL program in that transition and helping us through this year. So that would be really good. You've asked some questions as a board of trustees what this looks like and what we're doing. So I'm going to turn it over to Karen, and she's going to kind of talk about what she's doing with us outside of accreditation chair in a different role. So Karen, I'm going to turn it over to you. Thanks.
Great, thank you, Mr. Chairman, trustees, rest of the crew. Thank you for allowing me to come and talk a little bit about what I'm doing with you. Thank you. Perfect. So in this role, I work with EduPartners, which is a consulting company. We work around the state and actually around the country, mainly systems improvement. My role here is specifically with your multilingual learners. And then our projected outcomes for our work together this year is really what I'm going to be talking about today, quickly, with some room for questions. So first of all, I just start with this assumption, and I think it's really important. It goes along with all the other presentations, but all students can learn, and all students can learn in this district. We've seen that. Data, we're going to use that a lot in this presentation and thinking about how we can support students. But what's incredibly important about data, especially with really small numbers, like you have with your multilingual learners, is that we have to use it with a grain of salt. And we have to really look and see if we can step away from our biases and look at it for what it is. Because we don't have enough students, even though I went back 5 years and doubled up numbers and did all the things we do. We do have some trends, though, that are really important. The first thing that we looked at in the audit was your EL plan. Worked with the state. We actually just got that approved, so it's up to date. It's ready to go, and there's some great pieces in there. In doing that, there are some new, they're not new requirements, they've been there, but there are some pieces that we're going to beef up within the school structure. And so the first piece is stakeholder involvement and input. So tomorrow we'll be doing an administrative overview of the multilingual plan. We'll be doing some student and staff surveys. We'll be working with parents and adding them to the IELPs. And then towards the end of the year, after we get our access scores back, we'll be offering a focus group for any parents in the community that have a language other than English marked in colors. Another piece that we have to do is measure progress, and so twice a year we're going to start to do that. Right now, that'll be on your IELP, which is your individual English learner plan. When we get some students that exit active services, they need to be monitored as well for those first 4 years. Right now, there are none in Johnson County, but we hope that's the direction. This one is going to be a bit of a change for Johnson County. If a parent requests communication in a language other than English, we do have to provide that, and so we're working on getting a system in place, and I think we're most of the way there, where we can now have that service readily available for teachers, for administration, and for parents coming in. So really excited about that piece. The biggest piece when we're thinking about multilingual learners, we have receptive domains, reading and listening, right? Like so what students are able to do on their own. Really looking at 4 years of data that I have, exceptional reading and listening scores. This is not easy to achieve, so this is a huge, just speaks to how well Johnson County is doing with these students. Productive domains, that's where we need to focus. Really sort of an overall need for improvement in both speaking and writing. What's really nice about that piece is that when we look at, and I realize this is probably a little hard to see, but when a student's score comes back, their English language is measured in 4 domains. The domain of reading, which has really been overall very high, listening, which is overall very high, writing and speaking. 6, if you're wondering what these scores mean, is proficient, sort of same as an English speaking peer. Wyoming does have one of the lower exit criteria in the country, to be honest. So we will exit students from active services with an overall score of a 4.6, remembering that 6 is proficient. So what's important about that is even once our students exit active services, they still have large language needs. The speaking and writing piece, when you look at this over time, and what I did is I chose a student who's no longer here, we're not going to name them, but this is sort of scores over time, and what you'll see, which is very typical of this district and a lot of Wyoming, is around 4th, 5th grade. That's sort of where we have the peak. As content gets harder, as text complexity gets harder, as expectations get harder in school, if we don't continue to support them with language, those students tend to plateau and oftentimes drop. And so that's our work going forward. What that means for students, and this is a little bit hard to see, but that 3, if you look at what they can do as a secondary student, as a level 3, which a lot of your students are, they're not able to meet the demands of their secondary education. They can in reading, listening, in speaking, and in writing. And so that's really what we have to think about when we move forward. Because you have a small number, and we want to make sure that what we do is align to what already is a proven need here. We looked at writing both in our multilingual learners and all students, and we find that that's the place where the alignment matches, right? Where we can really think about tier 1 instruction. How do we really put something in place that can benefit all students? So we have certain strategies and structures that are essential for multilingual learners, but actually help all. And so that's where we're looking at, is we're trying to think about that alignment. Walkthrough data collection is also a focus of the plan. And so while I'm here, I'll be doing some walking through some different buildings, especially where we have our multilingual learners, and then also sort of where those students are going, and I'll be doing that one here. We'll talk about that more. And in those walkthroughs, there's sort of these 2 terms that we think about with multilingual learners. So comprehensible output, that's really like what students do to show you that they're learning, right? So kind of that simple. Comprehensible input, that's everything the teacher does to make the content accessible to the student. So kind of big fancy terms, but really simple concepts. And so as we're doing the walkthroughs, as we're working, we're going to kind of think about those 2 pieces as we move forward. Really, this is a chart from the Center for Applied Linguistics. They've got 30 years of research into looking at what it takes to educate multilingual learners. Not that different than what we see in other research around all learners. Really speaking to, if they just hear it or read it, the retention isn't as great. Really getting to that say, that speaking, which is what your data shows is our biggest need. in order to get the retention from students. And so what the implications are, revise the EL plan, done that is actually completed, and then find existing opportunities around speaking and something that we're going to be working toward. So any questions? I'll stand for questions at this time.
So Travis, as the chairman, I know it's behind the scenes. We've had 3 great presentations now, Karen, but the reality is these are critical to the operations of the district, right? And what she's doing, the time she's putting in with Steve, and kind of revamping this scenario is something that they're bringing to the table. She talked about the EL plan being presented. Absolutely, it's been rewritten, it's been approved. That ties into federal grants too. Everything we do here is tied into federal grants, but it's what's best for Johnson County in addition to that. So as we're talking about that, it's not only that, is now how do we maintain this long-term sustainable? So this is going to be part of our actually budgeting. We need to start budgeting for this program to be successful. What does this position look like within the district? How can we sustain this over time? Because Karen's not going to be the resident expert that's supporting. So we have to figure out what this is going to look like to move forward for years to come. So that's part of this process that she's in too, as we evaluate that and look at implementing a program that will be long-term sustainable with these students and planning for that potential of when one day somebody does show up. These are things that we are required to do. So we have to have systems in place that will meet those student goals. Fair?
Yep.
I will add to that. Thank you for that. You know, as far as just thinking about those placeholders in the budget, right now, you don't have any newcomers in secondary. They're coming all across the state. I'm working in another district right now. They just got 60 newcomers this year, all in secondary. So, you know, you don't have them, they may or may not come this way, but, you know, as we're thinking about that, what that is going to require and is actually necessary for them to be able to access content and continue to move forward in your system, you know, thinking about a budget would be maybe a part of a person, but also some materials that would give them a really solid scope and sequence of language in order to build. Because the more that we can do right when they get here, the quicker that we can get them access to classroom content. So if they end up taking a really long time to build up that language, they become more and more people have to get involved over time. So there is that piece. The other piece that I didn't mention, and maybe should or not, but every district in Wyoming is audited every 5 years for their multilingual learners. And yours is coming.
Yep.
Next year. So next year. And that audit will be based on what's happening this year. So it'll be based on that. There's 5. I guess potentially some others that are in the system. But again, what we don't want to do is do we want to figure out how can we make this reasonable for Johnson County, because we don't expect. I mean, you know, that's not a reasonable expectation. So what can we put in place? What kind of training? What kind of sustainable structures?
Thank you.
That's very good. Very important. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Chairman, those are 3 amazing presentations, so we can continue on.
Right on. Public comment time. If we got any public comment, let's go. Done. Additions or modifications to the agenda. Anybody got anything?
So Travis, did you say we needed to add an early graduation to our agenda, and you wanted to put it under 8C?
Yeah.
Would that be correct?
8C. Okay. Charles, if I'm not right, call me out there. 8C.
I would approve the agenda with that modification.
I get a second. Got a motion and a second. In case he reached by milliseconds. Any discussion from the board? Anything else? All in favor of modifying the agenda as mentioned, approving it further, say aye. All opposed, same sign. Right, so. All right, next up, JCSD 1 student video time. All right, next up, principal reports.
All right, so Mr. Chairman, our highlight or spotlight of the month is Clear Creek Middle School. So Brandon, I will turn it over to you and your team.
Okay, we will get right to it. A number of you probably know about the box sled challenge that we do, and many of you have probably even participated or helped in some way or donated duct tape and to the cause. But wanted to have them come and kind of highlight kind of the whole program, so you get to see kind of that it's more than just the race. The race is definitely a highlight, but there's a lot of things. So we'll hear from a number of sixth grade teachers, some sixth grade students, and we'll start off with Mr. Scarlett.
Where should we put this grand box sled? Back here, or
It's right in front of you.
Right up front.
This has been through the ringer. Wow. I'm Mike Scarlett, and I'm a sixth grade language arts teacher. And I'm here this evening with Chris Teal, who is our math teacher, Amanda Ruby, our science teacher, and two very brave young ladies who are a member of the winning box sled team this year to talk to. That's not their sled. Their sled was destroyed at the end of this process. But they are here, so we'll get to hear from them as well. Mrs. Camino and Mrs. Moon are also a part of our group, and they participate in this interdisciplinary unit as well, but they were not able to be here tonight. But what we'd like to do is take all of you very serious adults back to being 11 or 12, just for a little bit, and think about an 8-hour school day, but what it would be like from the perspective of a 6th grader to have the walls dissolve for a while, the class bells disappear, and be faced with the challenge of having to work with 2 other students in a group of 3 that you may not normally do anything else with the rest of the day. But you're working on the life skills of communication, collaboration, and problem solving, with the end goal in mind of racing down that Pole Creek Hill in our beautiful Bighorn Mountains, snow barreling out behind you into your opponent's face as you shoot across that finish. And that's into your face. That's the goal of the box sled challenge. But to get to that fun, there's quite a bit of work involved. And so what we'd like to do is take you through the process in order, which begins in our math department, and then moves into our science department, and into language arts, before the kids do actually get together with the walls down to build the product. And so, Mrs. Teal, would you like to address math?
Okay, so I have to start at least 6 to 8 weeks before they even know that we're going to be doing this. And they really don't have any idea that this is why I'm teaching them things. One of the standards we have is solve real world and mathematical problems involving area, surface area, and volume. And then one of the substandards is find the area of right triangles, other triangles, special quads, and polygons by composing into rectangles and decomposing into triangles and other shapes. Then they have to apply these techniques. So in 6th grade terms is I teach them about area and surface area. And they do that by taking parts and triangles and rectangles and putting them together. That's composing. And then they have to decompose them and take them apart and find different parts to them. So during this whole process, they're learning about their box sled without even knowing it. Because when they design their box sled in my class, I teach them all about that. And then I say, hey, we're going to apply this stuff to build a box sled. And they kind of look at me and I tell them now, I want you just to imagine what your box sled is going to look like. And I have a couple examples here that I can pass around to you so you can see. And they first have to just come up with what they think their sled's going to look like. Then after they figure out what their sled's going to look like, they have to then find what triangles and what rectangles, what shapes are involved. And this was another student. And I'll pass these around so you can see. But they start off with like this, but then they have to transfer it to what they think the side view is going to look like and with the shapes. And then also what the bottom view looks like, and 99% of the bottom of the slide is a rectangle. So they just have to find the area. And when we do this, they have to measure. So they're using their metric measurements. And 1 centimeter here, it has to equal 10 centimeters on the real scale. So they're scaling down as well. So they do a lot of that, and it's kind of interesting. They have to find the entire area of one side of their sled and the bottom, and then they get graded on that. So in the end, they're like, oh, so that's why we have to do all that stuff, Mrs. Teal, take those shapes apart and then put them together. But that's really what they had to do in math. And when they're done in math, they have their design, and then I pass the design, these design papers off to Mrs. Ruby, and then her class takes over and goes to the second part of the box.
So this is my first year teaching box, but I've been a part of it as a parent and as a parent. I kind of feel like I have the easy part. Chris hands me the blueprints, and the kids just use those as their templates, cut them out and build them. I have some example
weird. So they get to see, will their design actually work? Some are a little better than others. Some spend a little more time on. Most of them do not turn out looking like their designs. So we change quite a bit from the paper process to the prototype process to the big display. But what we do is we kind of in a time crunch build these in about a day and a half, which is about the amount of time we have for the big quiz. So they built these and then we tested them outside. We luckily had a day of snow by the end of the day, there was no snow. And so they test it for, we get to learn more math, which they love, and we calculate the speed of their sled and the energy of their sled. And then they get to take that information and then go on to their speeches that they're going to give to Mr. or from Mr. Scarlett's class. For my class, the standard, the physical science standard is not a standard I normally cover, so I do the engineering and technology standards, which are pretty broad, that the kids can all really succeed at.
So then they head into my room, and it's great. By this point in the process, they really like their sled, they really don't like their sled, or they like certain aspects. But they've learned so much that it has changed a bit. But in language arts, we focus on the persuasive writing standard. And they learn about claim and evidence and warrant, and they've written multi-paragraph essays. And so they have some experience with that. They take the outline, and that becomes their speech notes for building their slide. And then they sit down, and the three of them are scored by the different teachers. They present just to their group, 3 different perspectives. And by that time, they're presenting what they like about their sled, what they want to make sure they don't do with their sled, or why they don't want to build a certain sled. And 6th graders, no offense, girls, they all want to do it their way. But this process kind of mellows it. And so by the time they've listened to one another, they have formed a general game plan. So when they go to build the sled, really, for the most part, there's very little argument, hard feelings. They have a general game plan, and then they combine all of their good ideas to work hard to accomplish the sled. But they do that through the persuasive. Anyway, so then from that point on, they dive in, they build the sled. They're given 2 mornings to do that, class time. And then we get to go up the mountain race. And it's really a lot of fun. It's fun for the parents. It's fun for our principal, I hope, most of the time. It's fun for a lot of the kids. And it's an opportunity for them to get up into our bighorns. And it's amazing to me how many of them do that any weekend with a regular sled. It's a first-time experience. But hopefully not a last. Hopefully they'll get up there and enjoy what we have to offer. But it builds camaraderie among the kids. They learn a lot, academically as well as socially, and that leads us to the last part of our presentation. We have with us Ellie Baker and Torrin Wright. I think Torrin has agreed to be the spokesperson for them, but Ellie, feel free to chime in at any time. Their winning sled looked incredibly similar to what we have here. I wish we could have brought that in so you could have seen the comparison. Okay.
We also had Tasia Monroe on our team. She just wasn't able to come today. First, like in math, that was a really fun experience just to combine all the things we learned and doing. And like sheets where we could plan out our blueprints, and then we drew it out and named it, and made like our theme was mascots. So like you made your own team mascot and a slogan and a name and stuff. And then of course we went into science, and that day was fun. All the snow was starting to melt, and
There's the winning
there's
sled.
the sled. All the snow was starting to melt, so that was fun. And it was hard to race them, but it was fun because we had those prototypes, and we would see like the speed and just trying to figure out like what's good about your sled, what you would change about it. And then Mr. Scarlett's class, and we actually wrote this is what he was talking about for our speech. You write a like head, and then you do like stars and bars is what we call them. So you have like a main idea, and then things you can say off of it, and then you do inclusion, and that's what we did as a message to our team. But then there's also, of course, the aspect of building, which is fun. At least. Which was fun because it was like you just like get to know people that you wouldn't usually hang out with in school and try to figure out like their techniques and how they like to do things, and you all just kind of put everything together to make it. And then of course up at the mountain, that was a fun day because you go first up in the morning and we have the like parade, I guess is what we kind of called it. So you would like walk through and you take your sled through and they take pictures and you take it up to the top of the hill and we set up the bracket and everyone just raced. Like there's a bracket we actually had mapped out so you could see like when everyone went. Oh yeah, that's our sled.
Here's the women's sled.
I kept having to drag it. Was this the time we had to tree?
No.
No, it was not.
Torn.
It was the tree that tall.
You're doing well.
Good.
And then we raced 2 at a time down, and it was just fun to like everyone would wipe out, and there was someone like their whole sled would like fall apart, and they would just like run dragging their sled across the finish line. And it was just fun to get that tournament played.
There's your cow.
There's your mouse cow.
And then we, after like we went and we had lunch, and then we just kind of played around.
What was the very last thing you had to do?
Clean it all up. Oh yeah, we had to clean it all up. We had to walk down the hill and pick up all the duct tape. That's the sled that kept falling apart, and they ended up riding on one sheet of cardboard.
It was fun.
Yeah, it was got one place. It was massive.
So what was it in your design they made it the winner?
We had a curved front to our design. A lot of teams did like a triangle, so it was kind of plowing and it would stop them. I actually kind of hurt my hand trying to stop ours a couple times. I'm like dragging stuff.
Almost worked too well.
I guess. Yeah.
What part did you like?
I like the cow.
Yeah, our slogan was "Move out of the way."
How do you pick your groups?
It's a randomizer, so like they put in all the names and then it just picks 3 random kids and puts them in a group. And so you don't.
Have you two ever worked together?
Not really like in school groups, but I had never worked with kids.
Did you have much disagreement at first on getting everyone's ideas into one?
You know, like the curve part.
Girls, thank you. I thank all of you for listening to us talk about this interdisciplinary unit. And are there any questions that I could answer, or one of us could answer? Well, thank you very much.
Well, we'd like to say behind the scenes, thanks to the parents too, because there's probably a lot of work.
Oh yeah, you should have seen Pearson falling. It was great.
There's a lot of results on the backside.
They're the ones that push us so that we can get going. So they will fall a lot.
And the Buffalo stores are great. They all know when the box sled challenge is coming. They swing by Ace or whatever a month before and say, "Hey, we'll be having the box sled challenge." So they get duct tape in town. Anyway,
And it's all out of cardboard and duct tape, nothing else.
Yes, I did not say that. You cannot use any other materials. Not even clear duct tape.
Because then you lose the snow and then we get complained.
Then we're up there in June, the teachers
Picking up all the clear.
The yellow's enough for us to see. Anyway, thank you. Thanks, everybody. Have a good day.
All right, gang, anybody got questions for any of the other principals or our future principal? Got anything else we need to
Mr. Chair, I just wanted to ask a question. Mr. Anderson, and you were involved in it. What is the Mint Mobiles?
The Mint Mobiles.
Is that Mobiles?
Yeah,
Okay.
Mint Mobiles.
Yeah, it's just the engineers come in and work with the kids on designing cars, and then they race these cars down a ramp. And so yeah, just
They got to roll on lifesavers. That's our wheel. We make hubs out of straws, and part of the thing we visit about is how you're going to keep the lifesaver on the straw, and then how you keep them rolling. Yes, exactly. So that's our actual. But then how do you keep them rolling parallel? Because it's real common to get wheels that'll tilt out, or they turn sideways, and we're going for distance. The car turns at the bottom of the ramp and gets an inch. Anyway, so.
Yeah, I didn't see it. So thanks for donating your time.
Sure. It's a lot of fun. Not quite as fun as this sled, but pretty fun. Yes.
Kim, I really enjoyed getting up in the auditorium. That was cool.
That's cool.
That was cool. I've always wanted to go up there.
Well, let me know when you want to.
I'm not. I saw the video, so thank you. That was something different. Loved it.
Anything else for the principals, gang? Right
Amazing
now.
to see the rest of the year spelled out and everyone's plans.
Yeah.
All the way through May.
Way closer than I felt like was supposed. Guys, any principals? Do you have anything you need to tell us about? Anybody? Right on. Next up, superintendent report.
Hi, Mr. Chairman. Is there any questions from my report that I can answer?
Questions from the board? Not a thing. It looked great to me. Come on, director reports.
So just for 1 second, Travis, the parent liaison video, was anybody able to open that? I never could, so I don't know.
I got mine to go.
Yeah, I never was able to. But
Were you in under a different Gmail or something?
I don't know.
Yeah,
That's
my question.
That's usually what happens to me.
Okay.
It opened. Yeah. All right. Facilities, or any questions for facilities, food service, technology, or transportation?
Mr. Chair, I did have a question. Christy, when you purchase the Chromebooks, because I don't know, does the Chromebook come with a warranty?
Yes, the basic warranty is a year.
For a year.
Uh-huh.
So then the E-rate, okay.
Uh-huh.
So kind of the same question there. Do they guarantee a product for a certain amount of time?
The switches, the network switches.
Yeah.
Is that what you're asking about? Usually we buy, which is like a support every year. And I believe these switches come with 3 years support with them. So after that, we'll need to purchase, like, I think it's called partner. Want to have something fixed if it goes down, you know, like overnight service only.
And they provide it pretty
Yeah.
well. Well, that's what I was curious of. I was hoping they had some kind of warranty as much work as you guys do to the Chromebook. So, thank you.
So just to help with that, so E-rate is the federal program that helps pay for it. It's not, so they're the ones that are helping pay for that process. So the switches are not E-rate switches. That's the federal program that helps pay for the switches. Okay?
So the way I read it, I actually thought it was good.
So anyway, that's one of the things when Christy came on, that was a directive that that we as a district had went away from E-rate funding. So this is kind of that leveraging of federal funds to help with our technology infrastructure, and that's what they reference sometimes as the federal E-rate program. And so we have compliance issues with how we go out, and we go out to bid with that too. So all right.
That's the pre-approved contractors list. Is that? Or have I got something else in my mind? I thought part of this was there's certain contractors that were pre-approved, so you didn't have to let it. Is that backward?
No, that was, we just went out to bid for this.
Okay.
And they had so long, like 2 weeks, I believe, on both of those to bring back bids. And then we reviewed them as our procurement team and picked generally the lowest bid and has the highest weight on it, on those choosing the matrix.
I did like the matrix. I thought it was fun to follow through with.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, you're right. That's what I.
Or NASCAR, one of those.
So yeah, I mean, I'll just muddy the water. They're all separate programs, but E-rate is another federal program that we're using and contracting E-rate to help us
Are we lost in limbo on the elevator again? Seems like we've been on hold. Now we're getting close there for a few.
Yep, I tried to update you as close to the board meeting, correspondence, take it back to TKE. And they sent me a picture of a spreadsheet that said shipped, and they had a whole bunch of numbers, and then they said processing, it had one number, and my response was, so you're telling me that you don't have the parts.
And that was correct?
That was correct, yes. So, one thing I did not put in my report, Christy and I met today over the audio enhancement and approved the design, so it's back in their hands for the KC school. So we can move forward with that project, let them do the build, so we can move forward, and we'll be using PEPO on that one. So we approved that design for them to start the build. Excellent. Get that ball rolling, so we get material on the ground. Hopefully May.
Right. Anything else for the directors, gang?
I just have a comment for the transportation department. I just want to say thank you for the last couple weeks. Has been like a lot of extra, and I have spent more time like in the bus barn, I think, over the last year than probably in all of my life, but I've been able to personally see firsthand how the morale is changing up there, and so I want to say thank you for that. I've really super enjoyed getting to know your people up there, and they're not super upset when I roll in with buckets of decor for the buses. So, and then I also just wanted you to give some kudos to your driving teams for getting our kids to and from safely, and also they really are, it's really an athletic family, and when our bus drivers are also very aware of where our kids are at and don't mind taking them to the malls and it's a really cool thing to arrive and depart as one unit. So I just want you to tell your people thank you, because
thank you.
I'm one of the moms looking. So
definitely take that back to them. We appreciate that, and you know, some of the biggest fans the Bison and the Buckaroos have are their bus drivers.
Their drivers.
Yeah.
So they're right there.
Well, and just the relationships that our drivers are building with the kids on the bus is amazing, and so I appreciate it a lot. Thank you.
Travis, Gibb, I think we should give accolades to all of our winter athletes, you know, whether it be basketball, wrestling, whatever it may have to be. Those, they make us proud that those kids go to college.
Thank you.
Sure. Don't we have a state champ in our
speech and debate third, I think.
Oh, is that right?
I believe they brought home.
Great.
Yeah, so good showing there too.
Our cheerleaders did really well too. They were in all the games. It's just, that's what makes us JCSD one. We'll watch the Buckaroos, watch the Bison. That's what makes us JCSD.
Anything else, Dave? All right, district level reports. Next up.
All right, we'll just kind of go down the list. Any questions for Dr. Miller from you as a board?
Oh, but I really appreciated the video part this time. That was a fun video with Marty helping.
That was very fun, and just getting the word out and to everybody. And it's our district, and we all get a voice to steer this direction that we need to go.
Yeah.
So it's open doors. Please take part.
That's a great point. We need everybody to come in and visit with us, help us get everything lined up the way we want to build it as a community.
Exactly.
As a good video.
Thank you.
Hey, anything for Val?
Social services?
I thought your two presentations tonight were awesome.
Yeah, they were.
I understand a lot more than I did.
And so, Val, maybe I missed something, but it seems like to me that Mrs. Bauer should be at Mr. Hanson's school helping to place those kids.
She will. She will be. The goal was and that's where we started. We thought, we just did a short contract with her, and it just kind of took off. The original plan was just to have her work a couple days at the high school, a couple days in each school, and then be done by semester. amount of feedback we've gotten from parents. And I mean, I had one parent that said, we just went from what felt like no transition to the Cadillac of transitions. They're, like she commented, we have a high needs student that if you'd have told me a couple years ago that he would have a job, I mean, he is doing remarkable things in our community. And so, like I said, it just kind of grew. And then as the program at the high school grew, then parents wanted more training. Like I said, the intention to start didn't involve parents and DD waivers and DVR and all of those things. But once she came and kind of helped us start our program, we realized there were so many things that we were missing out on as a district that are so close to us, but just not here. And so her goal is to help us build some of those programs here. And then as her program grew, but like I said, she's been working to take our students to Sheridan, to gosh, where'd she say, Rock Springs or Riverton or wherever they're headed. I mean, every week she comes in and says, we've been requested to do this. Can we build this program? Just like driver's ed, that was last week. Can we have a driver's ed class? And I'm like, slow down, one step at a time. But absolutely. And so the goal then is to really truly move her help through our programs. The other piece was that high needs programming. And so we had great programs, but we didn't have a K-12 program. And so she's really been helping us look at, she's taken our teachers to different districts too, to show them what they're doing in those other places. And actually 2 of our schools have asked for that curriculum, and the teachers have really strong buy-in. I think the others will as well. And so it started out small and it's grown. And who am I to stand in the way of all of these fantastic things? No doubt about that. Well, and I was just telling Greg, we had parents that we've been working with for years, and we've never been able to get them on the DP waiver. That packet of information is vast, and it is very difficult. We've desperately tried over the years. She was able to meet with those parents, and she has a unique ability to build that relationship because she has been there. She's had lawyers come in to help talk to them about how do they get guardianship and things like that, and when to do it, right? We always think we should wait until they're 18, but we truly shouldn't because it's time consuming. And then once they're adults, it's a whole nother process. And so just that area of expertise, then we said, well, let's do another semester. I don't know that we'll be done at the end of the year because she does. I would like to have her in every building so that once we get those programs set up, then they'll be able to run on their own. And she's helped us do those things.
And Mr. Chair and Dave, if I can clarify one thing. Of the 30 students that we have at New West, 7 right now are on IEPs. And several of our students do meet with the Department of Vocational Rehabilitation. Just haven't met with her yet. But things a little different.
Thank you. Anybody else?
All right, any questions for Connie?
Can I just say, this is exactly why we do what we do, everything that's presented tonight. It was pretty amazing, and thank you guys for everything that you do. I had surgery on Thursday. They had a procurement team meeting, and they did these Chromebook process and chose all of it, and it was a system we put in place, and we're growing as a team. It's pretty amazing to watch it all go. So, yeah.
But we need to send big thank you back to your team for the hard work they put into that audit. That was as glowing a recommendation as I've ever heard an accountant make. I live with one, so. It was pretty
Should we get one like that?
Yeah, I know, I've never even close.
So he kept saying, I have to be independent, Connie. So he was pretty glowing for being independent.
So Travis, I appreciate that because this last year's been tough. I mean, what people see on the outside and things are struggling and the tears, there was a lot of struggles. And people don't understand that. But the one federal auditor, I wish she would have recorded what she did in the exit interview today, is fact is, what we did, she was phenomenally impressed with the fact is we transitioned to a new software. We understood that we had to go there. We're cleaning up processes, and it was done as a team effort. And now hopefully this will trickle down to the buildings and what we're doing and overall change systems in the district. That was a big leap. And the fact is we survived with scars, lots of scars, but a knowledge base that we're going to get better, right? So I do appreciate everything that they've done, but I'm more excited about the fact is we can see a little bit of light at the end of the tunnel. And next year, I guess it's kind of game on. So how do you improve? Well, we get better at what we do every day, right?
Yes, do it.
Okay, Connie, so I don't know if I've just never like mentally thought of this before or just when I'm scrolling through all of your warrants and stuff, but so like in the general fund, there's a bunch of transactions for transport to student activities. How come that's not just put in student activities? Why is that put into the, is there like a reason and are we like allocating our money? Is it like, you know, how we're saying, well, we want to spend this much on this and this and this?
You caught me. I look at those warrants, but I look at the numbers over here. So it's saying transport for students.
Yeah, like transport student activities, and there's like a full page and maybe a partial page, and high school activities, but then you have your own section that is just high school activities, which is and then middle school, and then
okay. So when you're talking about general fund, you have activities. And we're spending general fund dollars. And then you go over to the 80 funds, and that's fundraised monies. So it's kind of two different pots. Okay. And so again, that is a Leslie question. I wish you would have asked her when she was there.
I think what you're asking is that's the transportation. That's what this report does with Skyward now. It breaks everything down.
Okay.
As you're transporting and breaking things out. This is a much more detailed report than ever has been shown because of the transparency piece.
So it's probably the 3510.
So it's a 3510. So when you're breaking that down for BH, so when you go back to Bill's report and all those students that we've hauled around,
right?
Okay, that's what this is broken down into. This is how we haul them. That's the cost to do that. So those are the bills associated with that transportation, that bus trip. So whether it's a BHS, whether it's AC, or whether you'll see the trip to the mountain. So those will all be broke down. And you're absolutely right, because it used to be Marcia just a chunk.
Yeah.
But now part of the expectation is to show transparency. So these are all the transparency. So those are specific to transportation and not put into activities because that's where the reimbursement comes.
Well, that answers my question. Then
Sorry.
where is that actually delegated to money spending?
So that's getting put in this budget account so we can get reimbursed for it because that's an allowable reimbursement. Is that fair?
No, fair enough.
So the other thing I think she's maybe asking, Charles, all of those are paid out of the general fund. And then you get reimbursed depending on what category funds.
Yeah. So there's two functions that really, well, actually three functions that really work in transportation. 3510, that's the transport to and from school. Okay. And 3520 is activities. 3530 is things that are reimbursable that are not directly tied to transportation. So like the secretary at the transportation. So they've kind of got it divided into that. And then we have a 3590, which is those non-reimbursable things. So I have to pull everything that's not reimbursable out of 3510, 3520, and 3530 into 3590 so that we don't get reimbursed for it. But Bill just gave me this, and we have driven 124,886 miles just in activities today, this year.
That's with the skiers coming home this afternoon.
Yeah. Yeah. So excellent. And so in my report, I kind of said, did you know? Gave you a link back to the funding model. Remember, it's a funding model, not a spending model. And that's really kind of what we want to concentrate because we just throw it all in the bucket and you guys get to decide how to spend that. And also super excited about, okay, that's a bad way to start the sentence. Last year we had a 15% increase to insurance. This year we're less than half that. We're a 6% increase to insurance. And so that was directly related to us moving those types of plans around and our employees moving to that $5,000 plan. So thank you for allowing us to use those extra funds for those HSAs. And so, and again, I mentioned it earlier that we are going to have that increase to retirement. So challenges ahead, but we're excited about the possibility.
Anything else from the board? Warrant questions?
So, if I muddy the water even worse than it is, so I can sit down with you afterwards and explain.
No, I think that makes sense now. But yeah, I was a little confused.
I was trying to visualize the report. But that's what it is.
You mean you don't have that all memorized?
But I think it's a great question because there's a lot of misinterpretation. That you have general ed, special ed, you have transportation, that all comes out of this general budget. The universities, you got federal grants over here, which has Title I. We're not going to say ESSER anymore after next year. We have all these different grants that are over here. Then you got E-rate that falls over here. And so there's just could be a lot of confusion. So if we can help with that anytime, let us know. Okay. Perfect. So with that being said, Mr. Chairman, we are on rec board reports.
Right, Jim.
And then BOCES and BOCES.
Rec board, you're up first.
So we did not meet last month, but April 30th is the deadline. We will meet tomorrow again. I do know that last time that they met, you guys did the whole 2-year thing, but last year I don't remember when we took that vote on approving it, but it like delayed us almost a month. Because typically after that meeting in May, when we meet all of them, then we just hammer out where the monies are going and send them out right then. So it could possibly be on next meeting. Prove that.
Is this the intention to levy? Is that
Yes.
motion that we're talking about?
We can do that next week.
So we can do that next meeting and keep everything.
But I want to be very clear. It's an intention to levy.
Not the actual.
Not the actual levy.
Right.
Let's be very clear. Okay. That's some clarification. Yes.
And that's when you explained you guys hold those funds for a year, so you know exactly what you got.
They're there.
Yeah, and then start
So the
awarding
money's
that
been
money.
collected from last year, sitting in the bank.
That's what you're awarding from for this new process. So the intention to levy would be for the next round.
Yes.
Like they're wanting to do the East River, but
Both.
you guys want to do that.
Correct. That's what the draft is right now.
Right. So, but that's it.
Good question. I just wanted to make sure we're clarifying.
Yeah.
My intent.
Yes.
Okay.
April 30th.
Okay.
April 30th is the deadline.
And they're all electronic.
All electronic. And I don't know anything about that. That is Lisa. She's that good.
BOCES, extremely short meeting. We were having technical problems. We paid bills. We kept losing everybody, and so that's dropping on the Zoom. So that's what we did, pay bills, and we called it good.
Okay. Oh, geez.
We have not had a meeting.
All right. Next up is
Mr. Chair, I'd like to go back to mine. I guess I should have highlighted a couple things. First of all, upcoming this week is the community forum for the middle school principal. Will be Wednesday night. Interviews are Thursday, potentially into Friday, so that can be together. With that, we also interviewed for the parent liaison today. So that is continuing to move forward, just so we're an update. And more importantly, I want to just express the gratitude for our strategic planning. 16 hours of what I thought was very productive meeting time. And I'm excited about phase 1 being completed. And so with that, Travis, you were there were some other people there, but I thought it was a great opportunity for stakeholders that are really invested in where we're headed with our strategic plan. I thought it went very well.
Yeah, second that entirely. It was a brain drain by the end of the day. It was exhausting. I sort of walked out of there. I need
great
great
teammates.
It was real productive. We came up with some good ideas.
Yep.
Next phase should be fun.
Right.
Anybody else from
Consent agenda.
Right now? All right, consent agenda. Minutes and warrants.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second. Go ahead. You beat
Okay, I think Marcia run that
Yeah,
one. Okay. Dave made the motion, Marcia second. Any additional discussion or comment from the board? All in favor of approving as presented, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, same sign. That's unanimous. All right, next up, action items, policy revisions, second reading.
So I'll make a motion, Travis, to approve policy ADD as presented, unsafe school choice.
Got a motion, and got a motion in a second. Thank you. Any comments, questions? Things on ADD? Hearing none. All in favor of approving ADD, unsafe school choice option as presented, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Unanimous. Okay. That was the only one on second reading, unless I'm about to mess this up. So first reading, we've got 3. Yeah, sick leave bank handbooks and directives, evaluation of the superintendent. So this would be GCCAA, GHCA, CBI. We want to go through these one at a time, or shall we motion to do them as a group?
Oh, I think you need to do it.
Okay. So first one up, GCCA. Everybody's had a chance to review and look at the sick bank.
So I'll make a motion to approve that GCCAA on first reading.
Okay, GCCAA. Can I get a second?
Second.
Got a motion and a second to approve as presented. GCCA. Any discussion?
And the big thing there, we're dropping the committee, is that true?
That's how I read it too, yes.
There will be no more committee making decisions, okay.
Yeah, we're setting it up to a more of a formula system, so we don't need to have a 5-minute meeting from 8 buildings all trying to get together.
Okay.
Okay. Other questions or discussion? Okay. I'm hearing none. All in favor of approving GCCAA as amended, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Okay. Next up, CHCA, handbooks and directives.
Make a motion to approve CHCA as written. Second.
Got a motion and a second. Jan, please, discussion from the board. Anybody got questions, comments on CHCA?
Now, when they say district-wide handbooks, they're not talking about activity handbooks, right?
It's all district-wide handbook.
Okay, now, what if, each, say, the forensics team has their own handbook, and the football team has their own.
So that's their guidelines, that's the football guidelines.
They're guidelines instead of handbooks.
So that's the conversation we had, but anything that's a district-wide handbook that a JCSD level 1 district handbook will be
And there can still be individual school handbooks as well?
So we talked about that there are going to be more guidelines that have to align to the district handbook. Okay, so yeah, so you can put Cloud Peak Elementary, they can have a guidebook that reflects some of the same, because there are some of their protocols within their building will be different. Okay.
So Charles, when will you get these handbooks to the board? Because your last sentence, the board shall review and approve prior to the publication of the district-wide handbook. When will you get it?
So like the staff handbook, we're still in development of that, Dave. So that's what we've been working with the district attorney and the HR, and also they had district-wide ad too.
Additional comments, questions, thoughts? Okay, hearing none. All in favor of approving CHCA as amended, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. So, and third, CBI, evaluation of the superintendent. This is the one we spent some time finding out last year. Could I get a motion to approve CBI?
So moved.
Motion and a second. Discussion, questions, comments from the board.
So Travis, when I read number 3, it says develop harmonious working relationships between the board and the superintendent. And that's a policy. That is such a
broad term. It's hard
it
to
is.
define.
So would you be better off to say develop working relationships? And I know we're wordsmithing, but that's what we're supposed to do. So I don't know why that. I understand why the word's there, but I'm not sure that.
Yeah, it's a little difficult to measure up. But it's a harmony question. You're gonna have to get somebody with better ear than I to measure. Yeah, well, I'll bring that up. We'll discuss that with the policy committee at their meeting later this week. Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, isn't this the same meeting?
First. Anything else anybody picked up in that one? Okay. Hearing no more discussion, all in favor of approving as presented with note to modify harmonious, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay.
I just hope this year, Mr. Chairman, that, and I take full responsibility for it, is the evaluation. It just seems like we had so much going on last year that we would put it off, and put off. If we have to have a special meeting, then let's do it.
Yeah,
I don't think we ever got through the superintendent's goals, correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Roski. But I think we have to, as a board, I mean, Mr. Roski is our one person that we're responsible for. And we need to really designate him. We were full of things, got it to be.
Yeah, you're right. Requires special attention. We need to just get it done, but we'll prioritize that.
Mr. Chairman, I will make a motion to approve the district's annual audit as presented.
Okay. District's annual audit as presented. Can I get a second?
I'll be glad to second that.
Yay. Okay, we've got a motion and a second for the annual audit that was presented at the work session previous. Questions, comments, discussion on the annual audit?
Just comments. Connie, thanks for working with the auditors so well. I'm glad that everything went smooth. It looked good. So my appreciation.
Thank you.
And the audit firm.
Any other questions or discussion from the board regarding the district annual audit? Hearing none, all in favor of approving as presented, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Got it. All right. New West 24-25 proposed calendar.
I make a motion to accept the proposed New West 24-25 calendar as presented.
Got a motion and a second. Any discussion? Any questions or comments? We didn't let a leap year sneak us up again.
Does this meet your need? What's
so a couple of things I wanted to bring to the board's attention. One of them is we're just requesting an alternative calendar for 1 year. When you apply for an alternative calendar, you have the option of applying for 1 year or 2 years. Applying for 1 year will allow us to match back up on the rest of Buffalo's schedule, assuming that we do 2 calendar years at a time next year. I think that looks pretty good, so hopefully we'll match up with that. everything on here is intended to match up with what the rest of the Buffalo schools do. The one thing I would bring to the board's attention is in November, the 20th, 21st, and 22nd, the week before Thanksgiving, you'll see there's 3 professional development days. Our entire staff is going to be using Y-Built funds to attend the literacy conference, get all of our teachers some more training in literacy. And so we just built the rest of the calendar to accommodate those days. So we can all do that together. That's what those are.
Thanks. Questions or further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of approving the New West calendar for 24-25 as presented, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. 5-0. Chromebook RFP.
Travis, I'll make a motion to approve that. I believe it's vendor D in the amount of $124,975.50.
Somebody fact check that. Vendor D, yeah. 124,975.50. Check. Okay, got a motion. Can I get a second to approve the award to vendor D? Motion and a second. Discussion from the board.
Christy, is there a reason you don't put like when we go to approve this, is there a reason you don't put who the vendor is? I understand when you do the bidding why you don't, but.
Last year we had some issues where the vendors, they were saying I was the lowest bidder and they weren't.
Yeah.
So we just thought it was, would protect them, like from getting in fights with us about it or themselves.
So once we approve this, and if we approve this, can you let us know who that vendor is?
Oh, sure.
Okay.
How many Chromebooks are we buying?
325.
So where are they going in the schools? Is that just to replace broken ones?
We do like a 4-year replacement cycle, so all of the 5th grade, 9th grade, and then the kindergarten usually it's like 300, and then we have a few extra.
Christy, would I be correct in saying that this is getting paid for by ESSER funds? ESSER 2.
And is that our plan going forward every 4 years?
No, not ESSER 2, but the replacement schedule is.
Not ESSER 2, but ESSER 3.
Yeah.
So every year we buy about 300.
Every year.
So this is part of that budgeting and planning for the future. So as we finish this, then this is part of that infrastructure I've talked about and Chromebook replacements that has to be part of our budgeting process as we kind of move forward. Whether you call it depreciation reserve or but we have to start budgeting this process. So these are things that will be added to that. I would also, Mr. Chairman, like to call you back to the bids. It's not just the lowest bid. The procurement policy also procedure has scoring. So you have cost points, you have specifications, you have history, you have a lot of different scoring mechanisms that we also have to take into consideration as a procurement team. So we do take the lowest, but we also have these other things that we have to take into consideration before we make a recommendation to you.
Right. That's the lowest was just a percentage of the value. Everything else was weighted too. So that we
were just fortunate enough that this
40 points you give for cost.
Right.
Yeah,
the rest of the 60.
They still scored 90 points.
Right.
But those are things we take into consideration.
Yeah. Other discussion or questions? Okay, those in favor of approving the purchase of the Chromebooks signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign.
Oh. So Christy, I'm going to ask you the same question. Who's vendor D?
Staple.
Wasn't that in your report?
I thought
I think I
saw
saw
that.
that.
I was in her report. She said the word stick.
So let me get a motion.
I'm pretty sure it was somewhere in there.
I remember this.
For the E-rate matrix. We need to E-rate billing matrix. All right, that's what I need to get a note.
Correct.
Okay, yeah.
Make a motion to approve E-rate switch project.
As presented.
I'll second it, Travis.
Motion and a second. Other discussion or questions from the board?
Okay, so we had a little discussion earlier, and it says right here, this bid is to replace core switches. That will be the end of October. So they are physical switches.
Yes.
Yeah.
Other questions or comments? This is another one where we had the matrix they evaluated. This time cost was only 30%. It looked like we weighed heavier support and ability to back us up if we had something go down in this matrix, which makes a ton of sense to me. Other questions or thoughts, anybody? Hearing none. All in favor of approving, let me say this right again. E-rate bidding matrix. E-rate switch project. There you go. As presented, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Righto.
So, Mr. Chairman, just as a point out, this is a positive thing, that again, these are funds through E-rate, so this is the, this is $200 and some thousand that we're leveraging the federal funds to help maintain our infrastructure. So, I know it's a bid process, but just want you to recognize that the work of the technology department, their infrastructure is not cheap, and finding different avenues to support that. So.
Right up. Next up, other business from the board. Anybody have anything they want to bring to attention or report on? Questions, discussion from the board? Hearing none, April work session. Looks like we're April 3rd, 2024 at 5:45. KC Schools is hosting for our work session.
That's what we learned.
I assume we'd like to leave here at 5:15 to give ourselves a little wiggle room. So bus from the admin building at 5:15.
Board meeting will be the 8th.
Check. April board meeting 8th.
And that's in KC also.
Also in KC. So this one starts at 6. We're leaving at 5 that round? Oh, that sound right? I guess I should be asking Bill. It's Bill. Are we leaving at 5 or you got another thing we need to do?
We leave when you say, Travis.
Okay. Well, at any rate, let's plan on 5 from admin and we'll go do that one. All right, gang. Next up, we're going into executive session. So a motion to enter executive session.
I make a motion for one statute 16-4-405 to enter into executive session for personnel legal.
Perfect. Thank you. Got a motion and a second. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Board, let's take a 5-minute recess. We will come back and enter into executive after